A homemade consecration ritual, chapter 10 of Homemade Magic. Now, I'll keep reminding you, Homemade Magic is currently out of print, okay? You can still buy copies, or people are trying to sell it for an exorbitant price just because it's rare and they want you to think it won't be republished. So don't spend a lot of money on that because those are private sales. I don't get any of that at the moment. And the good folks at Next Millennium, the people that publish my tarot deck, are preparing a brand new edition of Homemade Magic. So if you'll just be patient, it'll be available soon at a normal price. So until then, I'll read it to you. Now we've gone through the magical weapons, the disc, the sword, the cup, and yesterday we talked about the wand. And I also posted a little comment on how sort of modern hermetic magicians view the wand as being the elemental instrument of fire, but and the sword or the dagger as air, and but pagan tradition often switches those two around, making the dagger air, or the dagger fire, and the wand air. Now, I wouldn't get into a bar fight with anybody over trying to justify why I'm comfortable with the wand being fire and the dagger air. So, but anyway, I posted a little comment on it after yesterday's talk, and you might find it interesting, at least my point of view of the whole thing. But after we've made or purchased our magical weapons, we need to consecrate them, and that's what this very short chapter is. Now I've got an epigram from the consecration of the spear, from a little section of a ritual by Aleister Crowley called the Evocation of Bartzabal, the spirit of Mars. And in part of it, when it's talking about, when the magician's talking about his spear, be this consecrated spear a thing of cheer, a thing of fear. Cheer to me who wield it, my heart its vigor shield it. Fear to them who face it, their force let fear disgrace it. Be a ray from the Most High, a glance of his unsleeping eye, that shall be fought this dreadful day. I hope you're beginning to see what these magical weapons really are. Any pointy thing can be a wand. Any container can be a cup. But if the pointy thing has no meaning, no connection to your will, if the container has no meaning, no connection to your capacity to love and be loved, if the sword has no meaning or connection in your mind to your wit, to your imagination, if the disc has no meaning or connection to your body, your material life, your ability to function in this world, then there's no magic in any of these objects. Once you've consecrated, purchased, or otherwise obtained your magical weapons, the final step is to magically charge and dedicate them to the service of your great work. This is done with a consecration ceremony, sort of a graduation ceremony for magical tools. But no matter how formal or informal your ceremony is, It'll be worthless, ineffective, and a complete waste of time if it doesn't actually mean something to you, unless it is uniquely your own, unless it is homemade. The consecration ceremony can be as simple as holding the weapon in your hand and announcing to the cosmos, "This is my disc," or "This is my sword," or "This is my wand," or "This is my cup. I hope it works." Or as elaborate as a highly structured Kabbalistic ritual complete with purifications, banishings, and multiple invocations of archangels, angels, spirits, and elementals. Your sincerity in the matter is the key to the success of the operation. Crowley and the magicians of the Golden Dawn point to what they call the formula of the neophyte as a format for a proper consecration ritual. The magician simply treats the object being consecrated as if it were the candidate in an initiation ritual. The landmarks of such a ritual are as follows. The candidate is blindfolded and kept outside the temple in the outer darkness. The candidate is brought into the temple. The candidate is examined, interrogated, allowed to pass, or, if for any reason found unprepared, temporarily turned away. The candidate is cleansed and purified at least once with water. The candidate takes an oath to remain loyal to the organization and to abide by its regulations. The candidate is dedicated to the great work by a divine invocation. And finally, the candidate is given a magical name, anointed and robed, and takes his or her place among the initiates. Now let's take each of those points as they would apply to a consecration ritual of your weapons. Okay, remember the candidate is blindfolded and kept outside the temple in the outer darkness. Until the hour you've set aside for the consecration ritual, keep the object to be consecrated wrapped in a black cloth or bag. The candidate is brought into the temple. For most of my magical life, my temple has been my bedroom, or when the family is out, my living room. For general workings, the temple is a circle, real or imagined, demarcated by the four quarters. For elemental workings, such as the consecration of magical tools, the south is associated with fire and the wand, the west is associated with water and the cup, the east is associated with air and the sword, and the north is associated with earth and the disc or pentacle. The candidate is examined, interrogated, allowed to pass, or if for any reason found unprepared, temporarily turned away. Now, how do you treat an object like that? Well, carefully inspect the object to be consecrated one last time and make sure it's finished and ready for use. If you're still dissatisfied in any way with the appearance of your tool, now's the time to make those final touch-ups. In the initiation ritual, the candidate is cleansed and purified at least once with water. Thoroughly clean the object to be consecrated and sprinkle it, even if it's the cup, sprinkle it with pure water. The candidate takes the oath to remain loyal to the organization and to abide by its regulations. Because the object to be consecrated can't actually take an oath, you'll need to compose a charge detailing in your own words exactly what you expect from the tool. Spend some time carefully composing this charge, because if you're unclear in your own mind what the purpose of your magical tool actually is, it'll be of little or no use to you. The candidate is dedicated to the great work by a divine invocation. This invocation can be as brief or as elaborate as you see fit. At the very least, you must make some kind of symbolic gesture or prayer invoking the presence and the benediction of the highest divine power you are capable of imagining, even if you consider the highest divine power to be yourself. After the invocation, you might want to evoke the appropriate elemental spirits. Salamanders for the wands, undines for the cup, sylphs for the sword, and gnomes for the pentacle. There are many wonderful and inspiring classic examples of such operations in magical literature. One of my favorites is Elvis Levi's Prayers to the Elementals. The full text is given at the end of this book. Finally, the candidate is given a magical name, anointed and robed, then takes his or her place among the initiates. If you so choose, you may select a name for each of your magical weapons. The consecration ceremony is the most appropriate time to formally bestow that name. At the very least, you should seal the ceremony by anointing the weapon with sacred oil, olive oil if you have nothing else, and then place it in a new bag, a red bag for the wand, a blue or silver bag for the cup, a yellow bag for the sword, and a green bag for the disc. Note, even if you end up purchasing your wand, cup, sword, or disc, I strongly advise that you sew the storage bags yourself. Anyone, even I, can buy and cut a rectangular piece of colored cloth, fold it in half, and hand sew two sides with colored thread. The minutes you spend doing this are priceless magical moments that will be stored in your magical memory, forever linking your weapons with the powers they embody. Use your magical tools often for your daily rituals and any time you arrange your altar. Keep them constantly in the forefront of your consciousness. Regularly take them out of their bags and oil, polish, and clean them. Even these simple acts of maintenance are magical meditations of the highest order. Care for your wand, cup, sword, and disc as you would your most sacred and priceless treasures in the universe, for that is exactly what they are. And please, try to not accidentally sit on them. Okay, here's the postscript to magical weapons. Postscript to magical weapons, or if you can't make a magic out of paper mache, you won't be able to make magic out of gold. Reading the ancient grimoires, one might assume that the magicians of old were already wealthy and independent individuals able to dedicate entire rooms of their house to performing magic, able to buy or fabricate golden talisman crowns, rings, and medallions, able to build elaborate altars, chests, and magical cabinets, able to drink from silver chalices and brandish daggers and swords of gleaming steel, able to dress themselves in costly silk vestments, sewn with threads of gold and encrusted with precious stones. It's true that a certain amount of magical virtue resides in precious objects and possessions. You care for them. You think about them. You protect them. You maintain them meticulously. You store them carefully. You treat them with respect. It is also true that different materials are characterized by their unique molecular structure, atomic weights, and rate of nuclear decay. Gold is different than wood. Diamond vibrates differently than glass. Steel is more formidable than paper. Consciously and subconsciously, we respond differently to different substances and materials. Magic is, after all, a spiritual art form. The magician is an artist. An artist must feel comfortable and confident with the tools of their work. If money is no object to you, then arming and adorning yourself with expensive and beautiful instruments and accoutrements will probably add an elegant and stylish touch to your magical work. But make no mistake, if you can't transform a scrap of paper into a magical ring, then there will be no magic power in a golden ring. If you can't transform a plastic cup into a magic cup, then there will be no magic power in a silver chalice. The magic comes from you and not the material. In the late 1970s, Constance and I were studying and preparing to celebrate our first Gnostic Mass. It's an elaborate Eucharistic ceremony celebrating the Grail mysteries. The celebrants are the priest and priestess. The priest bears a sacred lance, which was easy enough to make. I painted a broom handle and topped it with a brass spear point a friend borrowed from a decorative flag stand at the local American Legion post. Looks great. Perfectly balanced, too. During the ceremony, the priestess crowns the priest with a crown that is described in detail in the text of the Mass. Get this. The crown must be of gold or platinum or of electrum magicum, but with no other metals save the small proportions necessary to proper alloy. It may be adorned with diverse jewels at will, but it must have the Uraeus serpent twined about it. Obviously, obtaining a crown as described was just not going to happen. So instead of going to the jeweler and commissioning a gold or platinum or electrum magicum Uraeus serpent with jeweled eyes, yeah, right, I did the next best thing. I made my sacred priest's crown out of paper mache. I wound a wire coat hanger. I unwound a wire coat hanger and had Constance wrap it around my head until it fit, until it hurt. I twisted the hook in such a way as it was positioned above my forehead. I went into the garage and found a stack of newspapers, then scrounged around under the kitchen sink and found an old plastic dishpan. I used our paper cutter to quickly and wildly cut a few days of newspapers into strips. Into the dishpan, I dumped about a cup of Constance's whole wheat pastry flour and a big pinch of salt. I then added what we had left of a bottle of Elmer's white glue. I supposed it was almost half a cup. I then quickly added a little more than a cup of warm tap water. I used Constance's best cooking whisk to mix it up. Big mistake to use Constance's best whisk. Okay. But that's another story. I had no idea what I was doing. I just started dipping strips of newspaper in the paste and then wrapping the wire with the newspaper. After many layers, it actually began to look like something. I played with the wire as I went along and stretched pieces of the paper to form the serpent's head and hood. It took a few hours, but when I finally set it out on the patio to dry, it looked like it might actually work. The next morning I tried it on, readjusted a few things, patched a few rough spots, and more accurately formed the head and hood with paper and a little reconstructed paste. The next day, I spray painted it a brilliant metallic gold and glued 2 rhinestone rubies for its eyes. Every few years I have to repaint it and touch up a few things, but my coat hanger papier-mâché crown has served me well over 35 years. To me, it is more precious, more magical than gold or platinum or electrum magicum. The magic comes from the magician, and the magician can make anything from anything. Your creative potential is endless, like that of papier-mâché. And I've got some pictures there. Constance and me doing mass in our home. That pew at the time was in our home. There's my broom handle lance. There's Constance using the hair dryer on my a papier-mâché mask, a half mask that I made for myself for the rite of Jupiter for the Dionysian mask. Isn't she cute? See this sigil of Jupiter in back of her? She's so cute. And let's see if I got anything else. No, that's all I got there. That's it for today. Tomorrow we start part 3 of the book, A Magical Lodge in Your Home. So it's already Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take the rest of the day off. I'll see you tomorrow morning, hopefully, at 10 o'clock. Hope you're enjoying this. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.